Welcome to The First Turn. I'm your host, Hyena, and today, Llama and I are talking about This Week in Warhammer. If you like what you hear, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, or let us know if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. Alright, let's get to it. Welcome to The First Turn. I'm Hyena.
I'm Llama.
And today we're talking about some Warhammer stuff. We just had the Soulblight Gravelords Battle Force release, which includes the new Battle Tome, which is, man, that's the reason to get it. Honestly, the books are so nice, like soft covers, special art,
gold leaf pages,
especially when it's like an army that gets a pretty big update. They generally get brand new art and never before seen kind of cover art, which the last few years we've kind of got some of the same art rehashed a bit on the battle tomes, and this one is like, it's brand new and it's cool. So
well, and a sizable model release alongside them, though not all of them are out yet.
Correct.
But the aesthetic overall, we were just discussing how it's neat that they've got like this like almost Ottoman Turk aesthetic to some of the characters and knights in the army. One of the better looking death factions, I think, now. Yeah, I mean, I liked Bone Reapers when they first came out because they were so unique. Yep.
But this like kind of grounded, lower, kind of low magic, low fantasy sort of aesthetic. I mean, obviously it's fantasy and it's magic because they're undead, but grounding them more in reality as opposed to like whatever is going on with the Bone Reapers. Or whatever is going on with the ghosts.
Yeah, because in each of the death factions, one might wonder why they have so many, and it's like, well, they're each led by very different entities, powerful entities. While Nagash is in charge of all death, each has their own Mortarchs, each has their own agendas, each come from vastly different cultures and possibly separated by thousands of years of mortal realms history, which they're fleshing out more and more, no pun intended. And like the Ossiarch Bone Reapers are like constructs.
Right.
And
they're like Nagash is the answer to the Stormcast Eternals.
Right.
So they're like they're souls infused into an artificial bone body. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, oh, we've collected bones and we're just assembling a person out of it and then putting a soul in. It's like,
one might say they've reaped them.
It's like they've melted the bone into goop and then made them to the specific shapes.
It's like the same way a fast food chicken nugget is made.
Yeah,
they process the chicken into a pulp and then you pour it into the shape of a nugget.
Exactly. So that's a Bone Reapers. They're chicken. They're undead chicken nuggets.
Yep.
Coining that.
Yeah.
But that's why you've got sort of their cavalry have all these different kind of like animal heads and on their horses, because it's like, well, they didn't find an animal head. They just kind of built
what they thought worked entity. There.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Night Hunt, of course, are ghosts.
Yep. They're just dislodged and angry souls.
All of the spirits. And then Soulblight Gravelords mix a little bit of OG sort of undead ideas with the vampires and the skeletons and the do they have zombies too?
Yep, they have zombies. Zombie creatures. They call them what do they call them? Deathrattle.
Yeah,
it's Deathrattle, Deadwalker, and vampire.
And then they've established a new aesthetic that I think they've settled on, and I really dig it. And then of course we have the Flesh Eater courts, which are the ghouls and it's the what was that? Was it Blade 2 where you had the vampires with that weird hunger that were eating other vampires? Yeah. That's what they remind me of a little bit.
I agree.
And it's a sickness, right? It's
a magical
because it even affected
illness,
chaos entities and stuff.
So there were things going around where they were infecting people with tainted blood in the wine.
It was some sort of madness, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it makes you go mad, and then the more mad people there are, the more intense this growing aura of madness is, and it starts affecting people in the presence of some of the heralds of what's his name? Big Ugly, the new Mortarch of Delusion,
Usharan.
Yeah. Some of the heralds of Usharan were able to just start talking and amp up the madness and turn other people, kill them basically and turn them into ghouls instantly. They were even affecting chaos.
Yeah,
that happened to one of the Puscoil Blight Lords. That was in
Putrid Blight Kings.
It was in one of the story, but it was it was a high ranking dude from the Magakin, and it affected him, and he turned into a ghoul, which is wild.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting, the different avenues they've kind of developed for
And
armies.
it gets more interesting when they do expand.
Yeah, because this was, I mean, besides the Bone Reapers who were new, all the other undead was one specific army.
Right.
In fantasy, like all of this stuff was together, and it's not anymore.
Yeah, it's 4 very different ones, and they've quite literally fleshed each of them out now to be very different, and yet they have that one tied together thing where the god of death is technically in charge. No, I like that, and this is just the latest in a line of really good ones for them.
Yep.
Death have been very successful in the tournament scene as of late. How do you think this army? We know that. Okay, so let me back up. We're on a stretch from index to book in this new 4th edition of Age of Sigmar, where we haven't seen much in the way of change outside of any brand new things. Mm-hmm. The rules going from index to book have been pretty much a sidestep. Not much changing, just a $60 paywall. Gripe.
Yeah.
Do we think this army is better positioned than it was before?
No.
Have to make a prediction. You better be right.
No, I don't. I don't think it's that much worse off, but I think it is. I mean, it lost stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are changes that happened to it where they renamed some units and kept the same role. They added a couple of new variants essentially of some of the units, but it's still loss, right? And especially after whatever July of 2026 when they lose more units, it's just cutting stuff from the army, right? They gained a new vampire a mounted vampire character, mm-hmm. like they gained that. And they gained
that phenomenal,
and they gained endless spells. Right?
Yeah.
They gained those things, but they really aren't. Those gains are not worth the losses, right? Like they did some retooling. The new kit for the vampire, or not for the Deathrattle King, right? The Barrow King is either he's a king or he's a lord. Well, they had a new model for a king before. I would say that model got downgraded to a lord, right? And then this new model makes a king who is substantially more expensive than the Lord. Not really able to do much more, though. I think the price was a huge miss, by the way, on that new model, because he was like 140 points, and the new Lord is 140 points, I believe. The King went up 80 points, up to 220 points for a 8-wound hero. That's a little pricey. That's like Stormcast monster like rider level of expensive. Like Vandus Hammerhand on his Dracoth. Yeah. And he doesn't do a lot for that 220 points. The normal Lord guy allows a unit of knights to tag along with him, right? Like that's huge.
Pretty standard Lord rule.
That's pretty good, right? Whereas this guy doesn't do that, but he gets a benefit of like it's like a really bizarre. I'll even read it to you. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
So the difference between the two models, because they're both mounted, they're both the same movement, same save, same control.
Yeah.
Right. The King gains 1 wound, so 8 wounds instead of 7 over the Lord. He gains 1 attack over the Lord, so he's 5 attacks instead of 4. Both models have the same profile. Plus 1 damage on the charge, crit mortal, because any of these like cursed weapons are crit mortals. Same with the cavalry. Horse, pretty standard. Like I said, the Lord himself wants to tag along and fight alongside of the cavalry. So he gives the Deathrattle cavalry +1 to their charges, holding within 12, and then they fight after him when he fights.
Yeah.
The King gives kind of like a goal for the army. So it's kind of like an army-wide buff, sort of. It's you pick an objective or a terrain feature in the enemy's territory, and rest of that turn are +1 to hit when Deathrattle units are wholly within 6 inches of that objective.
Oh,
so it's like
that's a lot of hoops.
It's like okay, enemy territory wholly within 6 of that objective. You have to be Deathrattle. It's like
so and then you need the opponent to just be stationing units there at that spot.
Yeah,
which I don't know in AoS it's not as common. I could be wrong. Maybe tactics have changed. It's not as common to just camp units on an objective like you do in 40K. Because in AoS you tag and you can move.
Yeah, exactly.
And someone has to like go out of their way.
In fact, you might be worse off if you leave a unit there, because then they could charge to you, kill you, and then steal your objective.
Right.
You kind of don't want to have something on the objective so they can't get extra movement towards it.
Right.
So, but the big thing, I guess, is that good? I don't know. I'd rather have +1 to charge, I think, and save a whole bunch of points. But the big thing that he does is if you can charge him into combat and fight with him and he gets any critical hits on a unit, that unit becomes cursed and they're -1 to their saves for the rest of the battle.
Okay.
For the rest of the battle.
That ability is good.
But it's like, well, usually you're trying to kill things in one swoop, right? You charge in with him and you fight. He curses them. They're -1 to saves, and then
what do you leave?
And then you have another unit
right
in that same combat, then fight, and they have basically +1 rend against them.
You could.
Like, I don't know. It's like...
But he's also less likely to bring a unit with him than the Lord is.
Well, he also can't bring a unit with him to fight immediately after him.
Well, that's what I mean.
The Lord does.
So, like, if the Lord had that ability, that'd be insane.
Right,
But,
yeah. So, I don't know. Is it worth it for that many more points? I don't know.
Might not be.
I don't know. I think they overshot it, made him too expensive, because they're, like, overvaluing how well he'll be able to pull that off.
Could
be. You know? Be able to pull off that cursed thing.
I wonder if there was just like a playtest game where it happened.
You're like, oh,
guy
this is
just dominated the game.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I still think they're solid. I don't know.
I think the Lord sounds better, but that's...
I know. I agree. I think he is. And like I said, he saves tons of points. So I think Deathrattle as an army, if you just want to play skeletons, is much more viable than like Dark Oath, especially because there's a detachment. They're like a detachment rule, way better than the Dark Oath one.
Yeah,
because the Dark Oath one is bring half a unit back.
Right, bring half a unit of your T-shirt wearing non-killy guys back.
Whereas the Deathrattle one is, I mean, I kind of feel, and this might not be any different from the end deck.
But we didn't have all these, did we? All these units.
I mean, we kind of did. We had Graveguard, we had Skeletons.
They just call them something else now.
Yeah, they just call them something else. The old Black Knights, I can't remember if their stats were even the same as this. They might have been. They might have been 3 wounds and more crit mortals in the charge and stuff. Like, they might have been all that before. I can't remember.
I wonder if my app's updated.
I think the app has not updated to get all these new profiles. We could actually even check on that.
Let's see. I'll check Black Knight.
Yep.
Yeah, because all these characters are still here. Black, is that the updated picture?
Nope, that's the old one.
Old one.
3 wounds.
So they were 3 health, 4 up save, 10-inch move. Their barrel lance was 2 attacks, 4s, 3s, -1/+1 +1 damage on the charge. Then they had companion hooves. They have crit mortal if they charged. 180 points.
180. So they went up by 30 points then from that. I think they...
And they did have musician standard and champion.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard.
Yep.
Now most of those stats are still... They still have the 1 rend. They had 1 rend back then. Their crit mortals just all the time now, not only when they charged.
That's pretty good.
So their crit mortal now when they get charged, but they're not going to be +1 damage because they didn't charge, right? So they have the +1 damage on the charge still, but can still do mortal ones.
But always crit mortal.
But now they restore 1 model back to the unit at the end of any turn, which is a 3 wound guy.
Yeah.
That's pretty and then they have a bodyguard unit for other cavalry Deathrattle units or heroes that give them a +5+ ward.
That's pretty good.
So they themselves, when you're a Deathrattle character on a horse, also a 5 ward now, so they're more durable. I think they're definitely better. The bodyguard rule, I think, definitely gives them a price increase.
I think some people would play units that give that bodyguard rule just... Like, I don't know if there's one of those... It's one of those where I don't even know if the price matters when you're giving an improved ward to stuff.
Yeah. And it's not like, you roll this number and then, it's a ward save, but if you do this other number, this unit takes the damage instead. It's not even something like that. It's just solid.
Yeah.
I do think it's weird how the Vampire Lord on Demonic Steed or Nightmare Steed is only 7 wounds, whereas the Barrow King is 8. That's all weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just something to think about. But the Deathrattle Army rule that I was alluding to is... If the Deathrattle unit outnumbers the opponent and you charge, you get +1 rend, which is pretty good. It's now big, like 20-man units of Barrow Guard. While expensive, you can outnumber things and be +2, 2 rend on all your attacks.
And 2 rend, for those not familiar, in Age of Sigmar is massive.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Because that counters your all-out defense and then would knock down your save to probably a 5.
Yeah.
Tougher units would be on a 4. Which is a 50-50. It's pretty good. Vampire, decent. It's called the Aristocracy of the Night. You add +1 to casting rolls for vampire units that are not in combat. And you add +1 to wound for vampire units that charge. That's pretty good. That's it's good kind of all around. You have your characters and whatever that are sitting back casting at bonuses, and then your Blood Knights and whatever charge in for +1 or +1 to wound. That's pretty solid because most of them are really good stats anyway.
Yeah. So
a +1 to wound is usually a 2 up. It's pretty solid.
Pretty real.
So I really like that one. I think stuff, the artifacts of power and the heroic traits are all the same. I didn't see anything different there. Their spells aren't any different. I think their endless spells are okay. And the fact that they're free is a benefit. I don't know if I would go my way to pay points for a lot of them.
So in this, as 4th edition, we're approaching we're at how many, 8 months in, maybe? I don't know. And we've seen now that these books, whatever we're on, the 6th book or something, are not giving us much new.
Right. Besides, like we said, when new units are straight up just introduced.
Yeah, brand new units or models are introduced, then there we go. I wonder what the reason is for it. Because we went through AoS 3, which was a whole bunch of book and a model, book and a model, book and a model. But the books actually seemed to do quite a bit to change the army from index to battle tome.
Right.
In 4th now, the book's doing almost nothing to change it from index to battle tome, except cost us money. But we are seemingly getting more models per faction release. Because now Slaves to Darkness is the only one that's just gotten a single model on the drop. Although, well, it technically got 2, both the same sorcerer, one a commemorative and one a whatever. Exactly. But otherwise, it was like Stormcast and Skaven got a boatload of models. The Gloomspite got all the Get Mob stuff, right? The Auric War Clans got... what was their new units? What did the Auric War Clans get?
Well, they got the pigs not too long ago. They got the new piece of terrain, the Shouty Tower.
2 different terrain in the same kit.
Yeah, and then they got a endless spell pack. The Foot of Gork.
Okay, so maybe they didn't get a lot.
And then they got a hero, a Hopgrot hero.
Oh, yeah.
That little guy.
That guy, who actually seems pretty good.
He's stupid good, actually.
And then...
He might be one of the killiest single, non-leader hero models in the game.
Well, and then these guys got all this this fantastic box set. So we're seeing models for Age of Sigmar. We still are a little, now 3 weeks after, a little disappointed that what was shown at Adepticon for them.
Yeah, well, because it's like...
But
nothing else was really offered as a...
I feel like something big for the game has to be around the corner. But without an increase in their production capabilities, look what has happened. Legions Imperialis gets new stuff almost every week. Horus Heresy gets stuff converted to plastic almost every week. Old World has an entire army coming, the Cathay, which is going to gobble up.
I mean, huge release there.
And then,
but that's the Old World in general lately too. It's like they reboxed all the High Elves. That was a ton of kits.
Yeah, but a rebox versus brand new production.
But I don't know if it's old stuff, right? Did they make more of it new from old?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sure they didn't. We're just sitting on all this stuff. They had to have made more.
Well, they couldn't be just. I mean, I don't know how much of it they need to produce and send out because a lot of Old World players own their models typically. But we did get big Krieg release, big Eldar release, big now Emperor's Children release, also brand new. And so there have been a lot of models. I just feel like anything rules wise or brand new for Age of Sigmar we're still waiting on.
Right.
Still, and
we want something big.
We've got rumors of all kinds, but which I don't know if there's been any new.
No. I will say I do like this combo. I was looking at the spell lures for vampires here, and Nagash might be the most playable he's ever been here.
With the Soulblight Gravelords specifically.
Yes. Well, yes. So his data sheet has been trimmed down a lot, but it's still very similar to what it was. So for example, his little Hand of Dust spell that he used to have, which you could just kill a hero with, used to be a spell. Now it's a rampage. You have to be in combat, and you gotta which changes the timing of it, which is good. Because now it's not you have to be in combat with a unit, and then it has to be your turn, you have to be alive, and you have to cast a spell, and then you have to 50-50. It's anytime he fights a single entity, hero or monster, if they don't kill him, 50-50, it's dead.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It is, but now what he can't do is use mirror shenanigans to throw the Hand of Dust across the board.
Exactly. But he still has his own spell, which is the Invocation of Nagash, which he can cast unlimited times per turn. It has to target different units every time, but it either heals or harms. And he can cast it up to 9 times, as well as the spell from the lore of vampires specifically is an unlimited spell that does damage. So it's choose a unit, roll a dice for every model in the unit. Every 6 up is a mortal wound. If you kill anything, you heal yourself. But it doesn't say a unit can only be targeted by this once per turn. So if you got a big enemy unit and Nagash is taking 12 wounds or something of his 18, he could just say, well, I target this big unit. Do I kill a model? Yes, heal D3.
Yep.
I'm going to target that unit again, cast it. Do I kill a model? Yes, heal D3.
And I'm back to full.
At the end of the phase, if any models were killed... No, it says, when you cast a spell, the effect is resolved. You heal D3 if a model was dead. Like, I think that makes so that you can be clever and like farm a unit with the gash just like heal himself over.
A punching bag, and you just... Yep.
Pretty solid version of that type of mechanic. Because a lot of times when you have a mechanic like that, that's all it does, right? Like, roll a dice for every model in the unit. Every 6 is a mortal wound. You're like, all right, that's fine, I guess.
But this is also why he costs what he costs.
Yeah, 840. He came down 40 points. He's 840 now. But like I said, this might be the most playable he's ever been. Because his ability that he has once per game to restore a unit back to the battlefield does not say return it at half strength. It says set up a duplicate unit that was destroyed on the battlefield wholly within range of him, which means you have a unit of that normally isn't summonable, right? Like you have a big unit of blood knights, of reinforced blood knights, and you can be like, that's a 440 point unit that you just bring back to life, if it were to be killed. And that's hard to do. That's 30 wounds at 3 up save, know. But if it does, hey, it's back. A big unit of 40 skeletons. That ain't bad. Or zombies. 40 zombies? Whatever it was. Whatever big unit that you have that you reinforce gets killed, he brings it back full strength. That's pretty cool. That makes up some of his costs. Because before, there just weren't enough units on the battlefield in your army at 2,000 points that you could really take advantage of his ability.
Yeah. Well, he has the true raise dead ability now.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone else, I remember when AoS started and they were doing it in 40k for a while when they were trying to do summon or they were trying to do bring back, and it was always way too good.
Yep.
And so you spammed that.
I mean, I guess you could even bring back one of the dragons.
Or it did nothing because you had to pay points for it.
Yeah.
Now I think they've got it right where it's like half strength for most stuff, but then you have a guy like him where it's, well, he's almost half your total points, so he can do more.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with like Alariel, right? When she was 700 points and you're like, oh, I don't know if she's worth that. And it's like, yeah, but at the beginning of the battle, you summon a free tree lord.
Yep.
It's like, okay. So now you have a tree lord in your army and you knock 260 points off of her cost.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, that's worth it then.
Yep. And then it's like, and she heals 3 units a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Once per game, heals everything and herself to full.
Yeah.
Whatever, like the Seed of Rebirth, heals 8, whatever her thing is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they do with those characters.
Yeah. So I love that.
So Soulblight Gravelords.
Also, Nagash does not suffer perils like in the way that other people do. He can keep casting if he suffers miscast, which is good. He just loses his +2 to cast for the turn. So pretty big. So he can always cast his full 9 spells.
I know. There's a couple of spellcasters he doesn't like to go up against. Even him. Like Teclis is a problem, and which they then creatively wove into the lore when he was trying his Necroquake thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lizardmen are tough for him still, but
but he still gets so many attempts at casting.
As far as that goes, he's got a lot of juice.
Yeah, I mean, I like the power level of the book. I really do. I don't think anything was a huge miss except maybe the save on the dragon. I mean, if it was a 5-up save, 5-up ward, I'd feel a little bit better about the cost of it. Because it could, against specific armies, it could just evaporate,
Yep.
A 5-up save is nothing.
Nope.
But, in this game, we don't have that that protection for big things that like a toughness characteristic provides. My little guys wound, the most epic, named character is the same as they wound a zombie. It's the same number I need to hurt you. Which, usually you make up for that by giving it more health or a better save or like a ward save, like we mentioned. But I think the dragon may be a little too squishy for its cost. And I don't want to see it knock it down 40 points. It's like that, then you're going to see too many of them on the battlefield.
Everybody's going to run 3.
Yeah. Or more. It'd be too much. I want an appropriately costed thing and make it feel it's appropriately costed by having the correct amount of damage and the correct amount of durability. That's what you want to see. I'm looking at the Brood Horror.
Brood Terror.
Yeah. It was another one where it's like, wow, he's really squishy and costs a lot. He costs just as much as the dragon does and is even fewer wounds.
Yep.
It's like,
it's the same syndrome.
Woof. Sure, you do a lot of damage. So if you ignore him, he can do a lot of damage. Same with the dragon. But it's like, if I know what the dragon can do and I've got a few archers, I'm going to kill it before it gets there.
Yeah, I think they give the armies these distraction carnifex things, but it's like it doesn't even end up doing that, because even in a game with far less shooting than say 40k, it just doesn't occupy enough of the enemy's resources for it to really be that big distraction to let you do the other thing. Because it's like, well, I really don't want your big pack of Blood Knights and accompanying hero to come charging into me, but there's this 270 point ultra squishy monster over there. Do I need to worry about that? It's like, no, I actually have something else completely different that can go waste its time on that, and I can still shoot at your knights or whatever. So I don't know. I could be wrong. Someone's gonna unlock the key, because like the other version with Prince Vordry on it seems amazing,
but he also confers his 3-up save to it.
Yep,
that's the key.
Yep,
is because he's a character on there with a shield. Somehow the giant dragon gets a 3-up save.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it would hurt to have a 5-up or to have native regeneration or something that would keep it alive a little bit more.
It does have what, 18
wounds.
18
no,
wounds,
16,
18 health
16.
for the naked one.
Yeah,
16.
I believe it's 16 wounds, 5-ups. A little too squishy. For
wow,
little too squishy for my
Give
taste.
it a try.
We'll give it a try. We'll try it. But yeah, like I said, I like the overall power level of the book. I think it's pretty solid.
Okay, good deal. So. And I don't think any of the death armies were really hurting right now in terms of variety and stats. Like their percentage, their win rate is, and the representation are really high. The price to get the book to unlock the app, because you're not going to use the book after that.
I agree. But getting it through one of these boxes is probably the most stomachable way to do it.
Yeah, because it's basically free there.
Because I got the cards, which will be valid for a little while. And then the cost of the models is basically discounted from just getting the books, or getting the box, and then you get the book too. So definitely most worth it to do it this way. So.
And as a collectible in the nerd hobby space, those versions of the Book to Dark, that probably makes it the most palatable. Yeah, the most. And then we had, on the 40K side, we had the Emperor's Children are now available to us, which also got a big collectible book and box. Yep. But now the individual kits are out. The man himself, Fulgrim,
which I didn't think I was going to be interested in Emperor's Children, but the more I look at that kit from a hobby side, I think I might have to get one.
It's
because I've not really gotten any of the other Primarchs at all, any of them. No,
I haven't purchased any of them.
I take that back. I have a Lionel Johnson.
I have a Gilliman,
and I wanted Lionel Johnson when he first came out with his Inner Circle box. Yeah. But it was so impossible to get, and there were so many people that played Dark Angels. I was like,
well, and the stores were weirdly allocated.
Yeah, it's like, I'll just wait till he comes out by himself. But I took the model and I kit bashed him into a Lord Celestin, or a Celestin Prime.
Yep.
I gave him wings and made him a Celestin Prime, just because like that model, mine broke, but it was also, in my attempts to fix him, I kind of chopped off some pieces of him and it looks weird. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to buy another Prime because I don't think they're actually going to keep that model.
They may not
forever.
They may not,
because they've come out with the other ones for Stormcast that were so similar, right? You had the Yndrasta is very similar to the Prime. She's the Prime.
The new
hunter.
one with the liquid wings.
I mean, any of these characters that are very Prime or Celestin Prime-ish, and none of them wield Golmaraz, but Bastion Karthlos is a very similar character to the Celestin Prime. And so, I don't know if that model is going to stick around forever, but if it were not going to, this kit bash model could be something else too.
Yep.
And I think it's convincing enough of a thing, kind of a gloomy knight, give him a Golmaraz, or you keep him with a sword, whatever. It just counts as. The sword's cool, the lion sword,
Yeah.
I took off obviously the Dark Angels iconography from it, but it's
right.
Yeah, it's fantasy enough of it.
Every Primarch kit, loyalist or traitor, I want to work on. But it's like, you got to buy this enormous kit that I'm going to sit on for a while.
I mean, I was never a fan of any of their Demon Primarchs, though. That was the thing. It's when Magnus first came out, and he was the first and only one we'd seen. It was like, it's neat. It's super cool. I'm glad Thousand Sons got it. It's a little weird, and I don't want the model. And then they had Mortarion, which was super neat. I'm not a fan of Death Guard. I don't like the gross, tattered pus, boils and all that. I'm not a fan. And then we had
Gilliman came out.
Gilliman, which I don't know. The design of a lot of the Primarchs has just not really spoken to me. Angron, while super duper cool, I don't know. Didn't want him. But when Fulgrim was shown, this plastic version of him was like, okay, this one's got me. Because I've been kind of on a Slanesh sort of kick with the Hedonites. And then like looking at them, like, all right, I get it, what's going on here, and I'm kind of a fan of it. So
I saw someone on Instagram, I don't remember who it is, or I'd give them a shout, I guess, but they have both the Forge World one and the new plastic one, and they were showing the plastic one is considerably larger.
Okay.
Because he was trying to like consider doing the torso swap because he wanted the like smug, prettier smile from Forge World and put it on the snake body of the plastic one. But when he brought that torso over, the plastic body was too big, or the snake was too big. So it does look like it is.
If he just like head swapped, it wouldn't be the right scale.
It might not be.
Yeah.
And they did make it, however, so for people who can't decide which of the 5 faces he has, that piece is its own. And so they were showing you can just magnetize that super easy if you want. So they are different. We've talked about that already, though. I happen to like the new one better.
Yeah.
But this is one I agree with you where, like, more than any other, I've really wanted to try to paint. I mean, I want to paint an Angron, but I think the thing with Angron that didn't sell me as much is he looks perfectly like Angron. He does. He's exactly how he's described. That's how all the artwork's always depicted him. But it's like, oh, we've seen this when they did both Scarbrand and a Bloodthirster.
Right.
This is kind of another Bloodthirster looking guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it was neat, but it's like it's not groundbreaking.
It's an update on those kits because they're pretty old now. But it's like, so yeah, that was.
Well, they had Kabanda, right? A year ago before that. Like, it's just, I don't know.
We've had so many Bloodthirsters.
So much more of the same. Yeah.
And then every company that makes some sort of demon, like even Creature Caster, it's like they've got a
rage demon.
A rage demon with chains and axes. And
a rage demon of skulls and blood.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I know what you're going for.
Yeah. But this one's got a lot of opportunity. It's very, very painter designed. It looks like.
Yep. I conceptually in my head, I'm waiting for some other ones that I'm more looking forward to that obviously haven't been announced yet or released.
I've liked both the Loyalist ones in terms of the sort of simplicity they gave them, and then their size being what they are. Yep. I think is nice.
I think the Lion was an improvement upon Guilliman.
Yep.
I think that was a better model, but I also just like the idea of the Lion being so feudal. Like he's just a knight, like it's keeping it simple with him, furthered like the appeal.
Yeah.
Whereas Guilliman's model is just, it's so crazy. It's busy and there's so much going on there. A flaming sword and all this filigree and like the weird little half wings he's got on his backpack. There's like a lot of weird things going on there. Whereas Lion was just like, okay, simple, perfect.
Well, and that fits what their roles are in the 40K universe now too. Whereas Lion was like this roaming executioner kind of guy, and Guilliman's now Lord Commander of the Imperium, and so he was given this like ornate coronation by Saint Celestine and by Belisarius Cawl and all these important characters in the Imperium like coronated him as an important figure, and so yeah, they decorated him up a bit, but that's also Guilliman's motivation has always been kind of to manage empires.
Yeah,
the Lion's never really been as diplomatic.
But that makes me think that, like, where they're going with the next Loyalist Primarch, whoever that's going to be.
Well, I know there's also supposed to be some upcoming lore where Lion and Guilliman finally meet for the first time since they both come back. So that could be interesting. And then we've got rumors, of course, about who the next one could be. A lot of hints that it could be Russ. Since there's been talks of him reemerging from the warp since like 5th edition,
right?
And then of course the Salamander's hint was the other odd one, but
I'm still not ruling out like upscale Drago, he's at this point he spent so much time in the warp, he's basically a Primarch, right? I don't know.
he's the Grey Knightiest Grey Knight.
Yeah. So there's other options there if it's not one of those two or Drago. There were other ones that are out active and around Vulcan.
I do like the time between them.
Was it
because like we did get Trajan Valoris, who is the captain of the Custodian Guard. Who, if you read what the Custodians are, the captain of the Custodian Guard could almost fight a Primarch, almost. And so there was still space there. I do like that they're spreading them out. But I think the public, now that we've got these, is becoming antsy. Now they want them. Yeah. Now they want like every preview event to show off another one.
I know there's all these Primarchs that exist. Just release all of them.
Yep.
They're all still alive. Give them to me.
Just give them to me.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I could expect. I know we heard one rumor that the box they showed off for Space Wolves is only like part 1 of 2 waves that they're supposed to get of models. Big update for them. So who knows? He could be in there. We could reach the end of 10th, and
I would think it would not be in there. I would think if the new box is going to be coming out, it'll have like
no, not in the box.
Okay, I was going to say
in the wave.
Oh, in the wave. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
we've seen the box.
Exactly. That's what I was like. I don't think he's in that box.
No,
I mean, maybe, but I thought we saw the content. Okay.
We did.
Okay. So the second wave, though, potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
If there's a second wave and it's some months down the road or whatever, they might spoil it at a preview event,
right?
And then we're waiting a few months, and so it feels like they're closer together. Maybe
Do you think he'd have his wolves with him?
I don't. I was about to say there's no way they're still alive, but it's the 40K universe, so whatever.
Yeah, just like bigger and more impressive.
Well,
or new wolves, whatever.
Well, they haven't done so. They could, in the sense that like when Gilliman first came out. It was in that triumvirate box alongside 2 other characters. It was like, the Cypher and the...
It was a Grey Knight guy.
Yeah, it was the current Grandmaster of the Grey Knights because Drago's stuck somewhere.
Source of V. Voldus or something.
Yeah. And then...
I think Cypher.
Cypher.
Who had the blade on his back.
Yeah. And but obviously those 2 don't accompany Gilliman to the battlefield. And then Lion released alongside those Inner Circle guys who don't have to accompany him. So it could be something like that.
Well, think about, I was thinking about it in terms of like, look at the Silent King, the way he was released. Like he's got the big throne thing he's floating on, but then he's got these 2 floating things that accompany him.
His monster refrigerators, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. His little refrigerators. Mm-hmm. I could see it being like, here's the model, Lion, or Russ, and then like, here's his refrigerators, giant wolves with him.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. They just got some version of them with him.
Because how glorious would that be? These like dreadnought-sized Fenrisian wolves alongside, something large and huge and cool. I don't know. I think that'd be kind of slick. Like super Thunderwolf Cav.
What they may do is release a new form of Wolf Guard. Or Wolfen, even another type of Wolfen unit that maybe hasn't lost their marbles quite so much. And similar to the Lion where they released him with the Inner Circle in that first box, or was it with Blade Guard Vets?
It was Blade Guard Vets.
Blade Guard Vets,
yeah.
Where they might do that at first, but I don't know if he'll have them as part of his base necessarily. Okay. But they were a part of that original First Ed single pose metal pewter.
I have that still. I actually have that, but he's tiny.
But he's been gone for so long. I just have a feeling that those things aren't still around.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a character like him, they're kicking around a lot of design ideas. I think someone like Vulcan would actually be simpler.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to think about how much he's changed really.
Well, if you think about when they were talking about doing Magnus and doing the design of him, like they had 3D prints of him in multiple different sizes as they were trying to like figure out what they wanted to do, and they settled on this giant, projected version of him. My thoughts on that.
Yep.
But it's like they can do anything.
Yeah.
Right. Like they could do all kinds of different design styles and choices with him, and it's like you settle on one eventually. But like, you tell me there isn't like a design room where they've got a board with like 30 different designs for what
they've
want
got
to do.
for I bet almost every Primarch's been touched.
Yeah. I bet they have plans for every, and they have tentative schedules for all of them. I'm sure there is.
Well, and that's just it. They do like to spread them out just enough. So it could also be that since we just got Fulgrim, we wouldn't see a Russ this year, maybe.
Right.
10th edition, if they keep rolling the same pattern, 10th edition is supposed to go through next year.
Yeah.
Right? No, we've almost got all the books out now. No, we don't. We've seen the roadmap for this year. So it would be like probably...
Yeah.
Because Wolves are supposed to be end of this year. And they were originally not on the roadmap, and now they are. So something either moved...
Yeah, they slotted in and pushed something else back.
Yeah. And so... But it could be if we get Wave 1 late this year that there could be some event they come up with or a new chapter approved that's a new event, and then Russ is a part of that next year kind of thing, if we're getting him soon.
Yeah. What do you think about Demon Primarchs? You still think Perturabo's on the table?
I think Perturabo could be on the table. I think, it's Perturabo, Lorgar, Omegon, or who's left for that. Omegon would be a mystery because I don't even know if anyone knows what he looks like right now. Let alone.
I mean, we did have a
do we even know if he's ascended or if he's still just him?
Know. I mean, we're not even sure he's chaos.
Yeah.
There was a rumor engine with basically Farius' spear. Very similar.
It looked a lot like it. Yeah.
Thing. So I mean, it could be hinting at that. That'd be wild.
It could even be, but then it could even be something we don't expect, where it's like, here's just some character who's like their version of a. What do they call him on Chaos? A Chaos Lord for the Alpha Legion out, but he has his spear or something.
Or one that looks similar.
Very similar, yeah. And so that could be any number of things.
Yep.
I think it wouldn't be hard for them to do a Lorgar or a Perturabo because both in the lore have become demon princes and they just love to design the heck out of some demon princes. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. And I actually think there's starting to become a demand for it. It was like once the fans saw that GW can plastic these things to look this good, now people are like, okay.
I think there was a fear initially too that when they were going to start, when it's been like, oh well, the power level is going to be too high now, and they're not going to do the characters justice for how powerful they're supposed to be versus how they'll actually be in the rules of the game or whatever. But I think because we have that fear with like the Emperor, right? It's like if you ever release the Emperor with rules in Horus Heresy, it's like. Just his stats are just question marks.
They're never going to be right. It's never going to be right.
Like you can't hurt him.
Right.
Like he costs 2,500 points.
Right.
You can't ever play him, and if you do play him, you win because you can't beat him.
Right. You fire a volcano weapon at him, and he just goes psychic shield. It does nothing.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So you can only hurt him if Horus Ascended fights him through time and space. Because that's how they fought.
But now the universal rule for that is
Yeah. No, you're right. But I think with the Primarchs, there was some fear there, but I think they were able to alleviate some of that when they finally broke the barrier after 7th edition and like decided they were going to stop having the stats be the same as they had been since 3rd edition.
Right.
When they're like, we need to break this 10 as the cap on everything.
Initiative was also a problem.
Yep.
Right. With
and then a separate armor value versus toughness and all of that was just so limiting. And every weapon could only do 1 damage or just instant death. That was your 2 options. All or nothing for saves. Like when they finally got rid of those hard barriers, it did free up the option. Okay, now we can make these powerful entities. And they've hit a sweet spot with some of them right now where none of them are like too good so that they're auto-include, but you're not like hurt for playing them. But every army has access to weaponry that can kind of deal with them. So I don't know. I think they've hit a good spot with them, and everybody at least who plays that army wants to collect them.
Yeah,
like
I mean, besides even Primarchs, I mean, you've still got like Abaddon, sweet spot.
Yep.
You've got Gaz. Sweet spot, like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, those larger than life characters, I think, finding that sweet spot for them, and I don't know, maybe it's easier in the slightly more granular game that is 40K, or knowing that so many armies have access to just laser beam them off the table from across the whatever. But I think there's almost no character off limits now as far as the Primarchs. It's just a matter of time and weaving it into the story.
Yep. Because
they like to wrap events around.
Yeah.
It's never not with an event.
Yeah.
It's
always something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's almost never here's a big thing just out of nowhere.
No, yeah.
It's a preview event. It's a summer campaign. It's
the closest something we had to that was because a leaked picture of Angron.
I mean, I guess we had some Blood Angels stuff released around Christmas last year because they leaked.
Yep.
It was like the Sanguinor released on Angels for Christmas or something because the Sanguinor picture came out. And they were like, well, might as well. And then we knew Blood Angels was coming, and then all the Blood Angels came.
Yeah, I remember they did that with Angron because a picture of it was like just his weapon. Like the black sword or whatever, I think, appeared, and everybody knew from artwork. It was like, oh, that's got to be. And so then GW just put on the website, yep, Angron's coming. We didn't get him for like a year or whatever, but it was like, yeah, he's coming.
Yeah.
So short of that, yeah, I just think it's a matter of finding the right event to slot him in there. And now that and that could even be hard because now that they're fully supporting 4+ games.
Yeah. Speaking of fully supporting, Chimera Paints is actually being fully supported now here in the U.S. by a new distributor. We talked about it last week. We do have an affiliation code if you want to use it on the website. It's Dracoya.com. We'll have a link to that in the description. 10% off using the code
stock
FTG.
up on some like premium busts and models, on brushes, on paints.
Yep. And more is coming to the store too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just to get it started rolling. So,
Yeah, the tracks are being put up as it's rolling.
I mean, there's some brushes available. There's some paint sets available, but individual paints and busts and models and more availability will be there shortly. But FTG10.
That's the affiliate code. Save 10%.
10% off. So let's not forget about that. But it makes me hungry. Hungry for life. Hungry to paint.
I've got about 10% of space.
Hungry. Yeah. I could eat about 10% of my body weight.
10% of my body weight.
Let's eat.
Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoyed. Follow us for more of our weekly episodes on YouTube podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. You can follow myself and Llama on Instagram. We are at Llama Paints Minis and Hyena Paints Minis. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. And as always, we'll catch you next time.